What's up, guys? So it's taken me quite a while to finally get to this review. Boom! I needed to think about it, and I did. I'm glad I did think about it for quite a while. I did come to the conclusion of how I felt about a specific aspect to the game. Not about the game. Like, the game I know exactly how I feel about. But this is a specific thing about it that I talked about in a different video. It was kind of how I have always felt. A lot of you that have followed me, I think you know how I feel about violence in video games and video games like Grand Theft Auto and game developers that take risks when it comes to mature content and all that. If you don't know, if you're new to my channel and you don't know how I feel about that, pretty much the way that I've always, the thing that I've always said is I've always defended gamers. I've always defended video game companies, video game developers that take that risk. I've always defended just being able to have a game that is mature. And I mean, obviously it has a mature rating, so people that shouldn't be playing it shouldn't be playing it. So that's what I've always talked about. I'm not going completely into detail here, but what I was having an issue with was a specific thing in the game. So I will be, since I always do my reviews spoiler free, I will be doing this one spoiler free as well. But for those of you that have already played the game or don't mind spoilers, I'm going to be separating the videos. I'm going to be talking more in depth about that issue, about video games and violence, about Grand Theft Auto in general, Grand Theft Auto 5, and specific instances in the game. And just going into that because I really want to talk about that because I have a lot to say about it. And I think that there's a really important thing that is being missed when it comes to that. So yeah, I won't go into detail here. I will talk a little bit about it because I think it's important to mention that in a review for this game, but I won't go into detail. So let's get this started. A Grand Theft Auto fan since Vice City. I played Vice City. I didn't play, and I actually want to go back and play it because I've heard it's like the best Grand Theft Auto. I don't know if it's better than this one. I doubt it, but a lot of people's favorite is San Andreas. I can't talk about San Andreas because I've never played it, so those of you that have, let me know if the intricate storylines in Grand Theft Auto started in San Andreas. But for me, it was Grand Theft Auto 4. That's when it was like, whoa, this is like a really deep story. It got so, it was mature. It was like a movie. Like you were playing a movie, like an action movie, and you're just like, I was so intrigued. I was like, this is awesome. So that's when I fell in love really fell in love with Grand Theft Auto, was Grand Theft Auto 4. And a lot of people don't really like Grand Theft Auto 4 because, especially the people that played San Andreas, because they say that they took a lot away from it, like a lot of the customization and all that. So since I didn't play San Andreas, maybe that's why I didn't even notice that. I just loved Grand Theft Auto 4. I loved the story. So I was super pumped for Grand Theft Auto 5. I was like, dude, the more I knew about it, the more I wanted to play it. And just the way that, I mean, Rockstar is like no other game company out there. They're never publicly announcing anything. When they do, it's like something huge, like this huge trailer where you're just like, and the game's like almost done. They keep everything on the download. They're never at E3, even though Grand Theft Auto 5 was about to be released. They weren't at E3. They're hardly ever in places where they could publicize their games, and yet they hit records. Grand Theft Auto 5, I think, made like 6 World Guinness records, and one of them was the most viewed trailer. The game wasn't even out yet. I think it made, what, 1 billion a billion or something like that. It beat in on its release, and I believe it was one of those numbers was just in pre-orders. It even beat big top movies. It beat I believe Avatar, and it beat something else I can't remember. But yeah, it's freaking amazing. I was like, I mean, it kind of amazes me, but at the same time it doesn't, because this game is just, I saw the hype with this game, but it was hyped by the fans, not by Rockstar. I mean, every time Rockstar had something to show as a trailer or something, or a little bit of what the game is about, like about the characters or blah blah blah, but nothing, no publicity, no marketing, nothing like that, like pre-marketing and stuff like that, like so many games do. And that's just worthy of respect. Like I totally respect that. I mean, and then they made freaking my favorite game of all time, Red Dead Redemption. So I have a special spot in my heart for Rockstar, because you feel like you could always trust that they're gonna put out a full experience in the game. It's by far the biggest Grand Theft Auto game there is. That's with I don't even have to say that, without a doubt. Big when it comes to story, big when it comes to characters, and big when it comes to the map. This, I mean, there are bigger maps. It's not like the biggest map ever, but it is the biggest map in a Grand Theft Auto game. And there's no fast travel. And, I mean, which is not bad, because I'm not a big fast travel person, but I mean, you've got cars here and like fast transportation, but the environments are beautiful. Without a doubt, it's the best looking Grand Theft Auto game, even though you have to travel some long distances. Let's say if you're going from South Los Santos all the way to the northern part of the map, like out in the forest, it's going to be a long drive, but I just love looking at the scenery. It was beautiful. I was like, this is my SoCal. And the awesome thing was that it looks so much like it. They did such a good job. Southern California, for those of you that don't know. I live about an hour away from Los Angeles. So when I started playing the game, I figured that the map was going to be an exact model of the actual areas in real life. So I thought, okay, this has got to be Los Angeles, obviously, right? Los Santos. And then as you head up north, this desert right here, I was like, that's got to be the Mojave Desert, because the Mojave Desert is north of LA, like a little bit. Never eat shredded wheat. Eat northeast. It's a little bit of northeast of LA. So I was like, that's got to be Mojave. And then you've got the forests areas, and I was like, that's got to be the San Bernardino Mountains. So that's what I was thinking. There is no sea in the Mojave Desert, like above the Mojave Desert. No, there is no sea. So I was like, what is that? LA and Los Santos are almost an exact replica with the way they look. It's surreal. It's surreal. It's a surreal feeling for you people that have been to LA or that live near LA, or were raised in Southern California. You know how close it is. And driving around Los Santos was surreal. There's no other word that I could come up with, because I would be like, I've been there. And I've never been able to say that in a video game. For Grand Theft Auto 4, I've never been to New York. It was probably the same for those people, for people that lived in New York. Liberty City. So I was feeling that with Los Santos, especially the pier. When you go on the pier, it's like, oh my, I know that store, or I know that restaurant. Of course it has different names and stuff, but at the end of the pier, that blue restaurant off to the right, it's exactly the same. And I'm like, oh my god. I'm easily amused, so it's probably not that amazing, but it was so amazing to me, especially when I saw my brother playing. He surprised me when he was like, hey, let me play a little bit. It was after I had beat the game, so I was like, all right, whatever. So he's just driving around, and he spends most of his week in LA because of work and all that. He has a lot of clients out there. So he goes to LA at least 3 times a week. So he knows all these areas way more than I do. So he's driving around Los Santos and he's like, oh yeah, we're in like downtown LA right now. And I'm like, and he knew where to go. Like he knew how, I was like, try to get to the pier. And he knew exactly how to get to the pier. He's like, oh, it's got to be this way then. And he got to the pier and he's like, oh, there's that one bridge. And he's like, there should be the promenade here. And yeah, there it was, like all the little stores. It was nuts to me. I was like, he's never played this game and he knows where everything is. Props, big props to Rockstar for that, for getting such detail down with this game. For a gamer, at least for a gamer like myself, I'm pretty sure for a lot of you guys appreciate that. I appreciate that from a developer, to put that much effort, that much time, money, and sweat and tears to give the games these little details that really make the game stand out. I mean, just little details like that. It was like, this is so cool. So what they did with the map, what I was talking about, is they got Southern California, not just the LA County. They got Southern California, and they got different bits and pieces of it, not just LA and north of it. Even southern LA, like almost on the border of Mexico and California. They got a desert down there, and that's the desert that is above of Los Santos. So they took a lot of bits and pieces from the Southern California map, the actual Southern California map, and they put it together for Los Santos. So if you guys want to travel to Southern California and you want to pay about $60 for the trip, just buy Grand Theft Auto 5. Rockstar took a risk with the characters, the way that they did the characters. 3 main characters, and you play all 3. You could switch between the characters and play as whoever you wanted. Of course, there are times where it tells you gotta go back to Trevor or whatever, or you gotta go back to Franklin, because the story demands it, because it's part of the story. But if you're just free roaming, if you're just like walking around doing whatever, you could be whoever you want. And they all have their own personalities, of course. They each have a special ability where you trigger it. You could trigger the special ability. Michael's is very similar to Max Payne's bullet time. Trevor's kind of reminded me of Michael's. I didn't really see that much of a difference. I think that's what it was. Michael did more damage, and Trevor took less damage. And then Franklin was also slow motion, but when you're driving. So driving, which was really helpful a lot of times, because you could escape cops and bad guys, or even in races, you could swerve through traffic and get in front of whoever was chasing you. Obviously, the thing that jumps out the most in the game, I think, for me, were the personalities, the characters. Rockstar has always done such a good job at writing characters and at expressing characters and at making them feel real. And I don't think they've ever done such a great job in this. Besides Red Dead, I think Red Dead is up there with this. But like in a Grand Theft Auto game, I don't think they've ever done such a good job at the characters as they did here. And the actors that portrayed these characters, they did the mocap, the motion capture, and the voice. Every time I see the 3 of them, it's like, whoa. it's them. Like, they look like them and they talk exactly like them. I mean, it's not like they're putting on a show. Like, it's not like they're putting on a voice or anything. They talk exactly like them. And I was seeing like a little interview with the three of them, and Michael, the way he expresses himself is Michael. And I was like, that's if I was in the interviewer's spot, I would seriously be like, that would be so weird to me. I'd be like, dude, I was just playing you a little while ago. The graphics on the I mean, Rockstar's always been really good at this, at the facial expressions of the characters. That's a huge thing for me. Like, I've always mentioned that, is the facial expressions, little tiny details that they put into the body language of the character, into the facial expressions of the character, and not only when talking, but just like little things, like, you know how some people will sit there and like bite their lip, or little, like, you know, little movements that they make that are just pointless, but brings them to life. And some characters in video games are really stiff. They're just standing there like a robot. And it all comes down to time, to money, to resources, to the engine. Obviously, I'm not saying that those games are bad, but I love when they could do that, when they have the opportunity to add those little tiny details, and Grand Theft Auto took that, man, and they did such a good job, especially when you see these actors in real life. I was watching this interview with Stephen Ogg, and he does things that Trevor does, and even the interviewer guy was like, this is so weird. Obviously he walks just like Trevor, and he does that thing with his lips, like that thing with his tongue, like that thing that Trevor does a lot, and he was doing that, and I'm like, oh my god. Not so much his features. I mean, his features are down, but Trevor has a bald spot and all that, and the actor doesn't. But I mean, like, the way he moves his mouth, the way he moves his face, the way his body moves, and I'm like, man, Rockstar hit that out of the park. They nailed it so well. They brought those characters to life so much that when you see the actor, you see Trevor or Michael or Franklin. It's freaking crazy. I'll put a link somewhere on here or in the description of those videos, so you guys could go check them out, because you guys have to see it. Those actors did such a great job at portraying the personality of these characters. Oh my god. The actor that played Trevor, he was saying that it was really hard to do, but it was one of the best roles that he's ever had, because of the character. And that they asked him, did you ever have a problem doing anything that Trevor did, or that Trevor said, and because he would do some pretty disturbing stuff, and he said no. This right here is bullshit. And not because this guy's a crazy person as well, but because he's detaching himself to the character, which is something that you should do when playing a role, is detach yourself. You become someone else. It's not you. I think that's a big issue when talking about the controversies with Grand Theft Auto, is that detachment, because a lot of people take this game very seriously, when it really shouldn't, because it's a game, and if you take it seriously, that's where things start getting where they shouldn't be. One thing that I thought they could have done a lot better, and I wish they could have done a lot better, because it was something new, was Chop, the Rottweiler. I was like, dude, you got a Rottweiler? That's so cool. And yeah, he's like a pet. You could train him and all this stuff, and you could like play ball with him, and he'll follow you around. Not always, just when you ask him to come with you. If you have him with you when you're fighting someone, the Chop will go after him. Oh my god. When I was playing the game, I was like, how do I train Chop? It says I could train Chop. How do I train him? Then it said something about the iFruit app, and I'm like, do I get this on my phone? Like on the actual GTA phone. That's what I thought. I was like, where is it? Where's the iFruit? I was going on the internet on the GTA 5 phone, because you have a phone like in Grand Theft Auto 4. If you've never played any of those games, you have a phone, and that's where you have your settings and all this stuff. That's where you save. That's where you have your contacts. That's where you call your friends. Blah blah blah. And you could go on the internet there, and you could buy cars, whatever. So I was like, where is this iFruit thing? No, it meant an actual app on your actual phone, on your smartphone. So for people that have stupid phones like me, you're screwed. So I get my iPad, but I didn't get the app until I beat the game, because I was like, no, I don't want it. Forget it. I don't like having to get an app to do something in the game when I could have done it in the game, you know? So I was like, forget it. When I was using it, it didn't really work, and I'm like, man, screw this. You could like customize your own little license plate and like put whatever you want. Like you could put words on it instead of numbers. I did like the best license plate for Franklin, and it didn't do anything. Like I didn't save. It wasn't in the game, and I'm like, forget this. And I was seeing in the reviews that it wasn't working well for other people. They probably already fixed it. I don't know, but I thought that was a bad idea, the whole app thing. I was like, man, why did they do that? I mean, I know that they're trying to incorporate smartphones and like iPads and tablets and all that good stuff with video games nowadays, but why do I have to train Chop on my phone? Why can't I train Chop in the game? Isn't that where you should be training Chop? And the worst thing was that I didn't get it, right? So I was like, well, oh well, I'm not gonna be able to train Chop. But in one of those times, I go outside to see Chop, and he's crapping, and Franklin's like, man, Chop, you're always crapping on the lawn. Is this because I don't train you? Really, Rockstar? That's classy. That was classy. Shove it in my face, why don't you? With a piece of crap. Whatever. For those of you that did train Chop, let me know in the description if it was worth it. Does he do much different? What does he do? Is it like a big, huge difference? Or is it just like, whatever, you could do without it? There were obviously some glitches. There's never been a Grand Theft Auto game or a Rockstar game in general, because they always go so big. Like open world and storyline and cinematics, which is why they take so long to make their games. But you always have glitches. It's impossible not to have glitches in such a big game like that. But they were never game breaking glitches where, you know, I was like, what? What? Or sometimes, like, I've seen some of these online where you just, like, the character will get into an invisible car and you're just, like, sitting there and, like, driving nothing. It looks absolutely hilarious. Or when something explodes and you just fly up in the sky, like, endlessly. So in the game, pretty much what you have to do, aside from the main storyline, you have heists that you could plan out, which I found really cool. I liked the heists, and they do give you a sense of choice there. Like, how do you want to do the heist? Do you want to do it guns blazing? Do you want to do it like more on the down low? You know, what do you do? The risk of getting caught, or the risk is higher in this one, the risk is lower in this one. Which one do you want to go for? Who do you want to hire for your heist? You know, for your gunman, if you want to pay that gunman less, you're gonna get less skill, that kind of stuff. So it all depends on how you choose. But I thought there weren't that many heists. Like, I was like, man, I wanted to do more. There was more of people telling you to do something, kind of like you're the hired gun type of thing. Like, go do this and that. It's like, no, but we don't want, no, we'll freaking go. I was thinking about that. I was like, man, almost every Rockstar game has that aspect where some kind of law enforcement is exploiting you. They did that in Grand Theft Auto 4. They did that in Red Dead Redemption, and they did that in Grand Theft Auto 5. A different way, but it's still there. And I was like, oh god. I felt like I was seeing the same concept from Grand Theft Auto 4 in a different way. Obviously, it was different. I was like, man, I kind of wish there was more about, it was more about you and your group, and making and doing more heists. Because there were, I think, like, how many heists were there? One, two, three, like three actual heists. One of them was a big one, and I found those really fun. So I kind of wish that there was maybe just a few more, but I was kind of surprised at the number. I mean, you guys might feel differently about that, but that's how I felt. I really enjoyed those. I really like that aspect of switching characters. At first, I was like, I don't really like this. Like, it was really making me feel weird. Like, because I had never done that. And I was like, wait, no, I want to keep being Franklin, or I want to keep being Michael, but I'd have to switch. And I'd be like, but that was in the beginning, because you really get used to it really fast, because you start falling in love with these characters. Some people don't. Some people, I know, I've heard people saying, man, Trevor, I grew to hate him. And I was like, really? I grew to love Trevor. I don't know if that makes me sound like a psychopath. Everybody that says I love Trevor always says, I'm not a psychopath, I swear. He was such a great character. They did such a good job at writing him, and they did such a good job, the actor did such a good job at portraying him. But everyone else, like, you fall in love with them. You're just like, I want to know what Trevor's up to right now, and I want to know what Michael's doing right now, or I want to know what Franklin is up to, or I want to do a Franklin mission instead right now. You know, they all had their own types of missions. Some of them were similar, but a lot of them were kind of different, where you were taken into their life. And Michael, like, for example, Michael and Trevor, they had such different lives. Michael was used to living in the city, and, like, you know, he's this top guy in a suit. And Trevor was just like this this hillbilly living off in the desert, wearing whatever he found, sometimes just his underwear. And they were just so different, and you got to experience each life. And for example, Franklin was really interesting as well, because he started off with nothing and started to move on up. And he was the youngest one. Like, he was the one that was being mentored throughout the process. And the two people that were pretty much mentoring him, Michael and Trevor, weren't really the best role models, but at the same time, they still had a lot to teach, and they were the older characters, they were the more experienced characters. I will say this, as much as I loved the story, the characters, the way that that story was told, by telling three different stories and blending them together, because they all blended together. It wasn't like completely separate. They all came together somehow. And even though you would go off and play Michael at one time, sometimes, or most of the times, you would meet up with Trevor and Franklin at the same time. So you'd be playing Michael, go to a mission, and then you'd see Trevor and Franklin come in. And while you would switch, the crazy thing was that one of my favorite things was switching, because in the minute that you switch, you go, say you're Michael, and then you switch to Trevor. They don't just sit where you left them. They go off and do their own thing. So sometimes you would look for Trevor and then find Trevor, and you would like slip into a moment where something was happening.
Fucking get the fuck down there! Fuck! Fuck this shit! Ah, seriously.
That's what we call teabagging, Pop.
So they always kept it interesting. There was a lot of things to do. I already beat the game and I'm still playing it. I'm at 82% accomplishment. I already beat all the main missions. There are still other missions that are popping up when you buy property and all that, because you can buy property. I mean, the amount of things that you have to do, it sometimes makes me go, wow. I mean, I've seen games with more things to do, but they're still enjoyable even after you beat the game. The scuba diving things, I love doing that. I wish the whole scuba diving aspect, they had made it more accessible during the game, because I didn't get to do it until after I beat the game, because I didn't have enough money to buy the property where you get the scuba gear, and the boat and all that, in order to do that every now and then whenever you wanted to. Or they should have made it that you could buy the scuba gear, or, you know, something like that, where you could acquire it somehow and keep it and have it in your wardrobe or something. You do get an outfit of like scuba after the game is over, but it's not even like, it doesn't even have the oxygen or the mask or anything. It's just the wetsuit. And I'm like, what the hell do I want a wetsuit without the actual gear? I know that you could get like the scuba gear by going to a boat on one of the docks. You get into the boat and you get the gear and all that. But as soon as you leave, as soon as you get off, you lose it. So I'm like, really? So, and sometimes I would go to that area where the boat was and it wasn't there. And I'd be like, where's the freaking boat? The boat wasn't there. I'd look all over the place, not there. So sometimes I couldn't get the scuba gear, which sucked, because I was like, man, I wanted to go underwater and look around, because it's another world under there. There's so much to do down there, and it's you guys, after you beat the game, because I don't know if you'll have enough money during the game, and unless you do cheats and all that, but after the game you get you have more money, and you could buy the property that has the submarine, a boat with scuba gear, and you get missions there for Michael and for Trevor. So those are the missions that I'm doing right now with them, and the scuba diving ones I love. And even the submarine ones are so cool. The customization is awesome. I love it. I love to be able to make... That's one thing that makes me get so interested in a game, is being able to change little things like that. Pointless things like that. Where you're just like, really? No, forget it. And you have your character wearing the same clothes for like forever. I don't do that. Like, my characters would actually change like almost every day. Sometimes my characters would go with the same outfit like maybe for 2 days, but no more than that. Like, I would always change them, and I'd always be buying clothes, and I'd be like, oh, this is the Michael is gonna wear this clothes when he goes up north, because he's gonna be going to the desert and all that, and it's gonna be hot. So I'd be like, he can't be wearing a suit when he goes out there, because that's just stupid. I love that stuff. Those little tiny things just make me go, ah! And then, of course, there were the glitches that I believe have already been resolved. The glitches of buying cars and having them disappear. That was so annoying. That was bad. I mean, even when you would go and upgrade the car that the character came with, like Trevor's car, I upgraded his car and I made it look like exactly how I wanted it to look, and I'm like, this is perfect. I made it orange and everything. I was like, this is perfect for Trevor and all this stuff. And it was like that for a good while, and then I walk out of my house and it's back to the red truck from the beginning with no upgrades. Like, I'm like, if they fixed it, thank goodness, because that was the worst glitch of the game. The thing that sucks is I don't think that update lets you get those cars back that you lost. I don't think so, because I after the update, I went and checked in my garage to see if the cars were back, and they weren't. So I don't know. I think you just lost those. So now I've got to talk a little bit about the mature rating in the game, and why that can make or break the game for somebody, for a particular person, when it comes to the way that they play their games, or what the content that they maybe feel uncomfortable with. Intense violence, blood and gore, nudity, mature humor, strong language, strong sexual content, use of drugs and alcohol. One funny thing about the use of drugs and alcohol is that sometimes, not always, but most of the time, when one of the characters would smoke, or when one of the characters would drink alcohol or something, the character would say things that that would be kind of interpreted like that was bad for you, like taking drugs was bad for you, or smoking was bad for you. Like, I started laughing so hard when Franklin started smoking in his first safe house. I sat Franklin down on the couch and he started smoking. And he starts coughing like uncontrollably, and he's like, "Oh, my lungs, they hurt." And then with the drinking too, like, "Oh, I feel so horrible. I don't know why I do this to myself," and all this stuff. But yeah, I thought that was funny the way that they approached that. Not always, but sometimes. I don't want to make this super long because this is a review and it's already getting really, really long. But there's so much to say about this game that I feel like I'm never going to finish because it is such a big game. But it is definitely worth the time because it has so much detail, so much story, so much character. The story isn't out of this world. It's not like, oh my god, that was freaking brilliant. But the way it's told is really intriguing, especially because you don't see stories like this told in mainstream media in general at all. I mean, every now and then you do see some movies about gangsters and bad guys and all that. That they're the main bad guy or whatever. That they're the protagonist. But usually they start off bad and then they go good. They redeem themselves. Or, making you go, yay, root for the hero. They become a hero. Grand Theft Auto, it's not. It's just you're playing a bad guy. You're playing these three guys that commit crime. That's it. It's like there is no redeeming factor. I mean, there's kind of like a redeeming factor, but they can't quite get there. If you don't separate your morals, your way of reacting to this kind of stuff, to violence, to drugs, to all of that. If that stuff bothers you so much, you probably won't like the game. You probably will not enjoy it. But if that stuff doesn't bother you to the point where you feel disturbed emotionally and you're just like, oh my god, I don't think I could keep playing this game. If that stuff doesn't bother, like me, that stuff made me cringe. Some stuff made me where I'm like, whoa, that was messed up. But I didn't let my morals, I didn't let my psyche play the game. That's not how I play games. I completely separate myself from the game. And you know what plays with the game? My imagination. My imagination is what is interacting with the game. That's why I know that everything that happens in there is not real. And that it's not me reacting. It's not me personally. And that's one thing that people have to understand about Grand Theft Auto is that everything that is done here, it's a game. It's not supposed to be taken the way that a lot of people take it. The whole game doesn't have intense violence. It's not the whole game. I think the worst of it was the torture scene. I think that was the worst. But there is a lot of psychopathic stuff in there where Trevor just like freaks out. This is a story only. It's characters. They are well-written characters, even though they are pretty freaking crazy. It's hard to do that. It's hard to write such a well-written crazy person and much less interpret that person with motion capture with an actor. So I think they did such a good job with that. And I think it is worthy of praise because of the time, the effort, everything they put into this game. They did such a great job with it that I want to recommend it to everybody because I loved it so much. I liked it much better than Grand Theft Auto 4. I think Grand Theft Auto 4 had maybe a more captivating story. This one, the reason why I like this one more is because of the characters, the character interactions, the character development, the way that they grow throughout the story, and how the tension's there and all that. You really feel it. And that's what I liked more in this game. Grand Theft Auto 4 I still love, but I enjoyed Grand Theft Auto 5 much more because of just the extra effort, the extra detail put into it in every aspect. So I'm just going to say something really quick about Grand Theft Auto Online. I played it and I played a little bit of it. I didn't play a lot. I wanted to know if I liked the whole aspect of it. I think it has a lot for people that love that type of stuff, that like to do all of those like multiplayer stuff. I think it fits those people that like playing multiplayer. I've never been a big fan of that. And after I went on there maybe like 5 times and got killed by random people for no reason, I was just driving and they got me out of my car, killed me, and jacked my car that I had gotten and upgraded myself, and then just walking down the street and getting shot for no freaking reason. I was like, you know what, I'm done. Because I'm like, I want to do things around here, and freaking idiots exist in the world that just want to kill you just because they think it's funny. I'm not for that type of stuff. I know that some people find that funny and they're like, oh, I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna freaking get you, I'm gonna kill you, and they just go around chasing people that killed them. Oh my god, I find that so dull. I'm like, really? I just got killed by some idiot just because? I knew that was gonna happen, though. I knew that was gonna happen. I was like, that's what happens when you put a bunch of people in one area. They're gonna kill you. And I'm not even talking about like gangs and all that, and like crews, and because I know the crews could go against the crew, but you've got a goal there. That's your goal. Take out that crew or whatever. But no, I mean just like random people. Like, I was going into the freaking suburban shop and I just get shot. I'm not even gonna waste my time. If you like those challenges that they give in multiplayer, if you like racing with people, if you like interacting with people, if you like the previous Grand Theft Auto online, the multiplayers, because this is completely different, but the multiplayers, you probably will like it. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's not for me. This was a really hard review for me to do because there's just so much to it that I can't just say, yeah, go play it, because there are some things in the game, and I like to be fair. I try to be fair to all types of people. I try to let you know what some people might like, what other people might like, that kind of thing. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys later.